I predict the formation of a brand new Quad in the next 10 years. This Quad will not have the United States and Australia. Instead, it will comprise of India, Israel, Japan, and Russia. The goal, you may ask? To bring China down to its knees. Hi and welcome. You are watching TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I am your host Sanbir, and in this video I will give you my discernment about how a new strategic alliance of 4 countries could bring China to its knees. Let's begin. The United States of America, led by Joe Biden, wants to turn the world's attention to Ukraine. The situation is particularly precarious for American allies like Israel, who do not want to be a part of a front that is seen threatening Russia's security interests. Therefore, in order to avoid confrontation and tensions with Russia, Israel has taken a big decision. Tel Aviv has refused to sell the Iron Dome air defense system to Ukraine, despite Kyiv and Washington putting pressure on Israel to do so. Do you know what the tragedy of 2022 is? It is that the US and its allies have shifted all their focus to Russia and how it supposedly wants to swallow Eastern Europe as a whole. What will this warmongering achieve? It will probably cost the Russian economy dearly. It would also pump in much needed cash into the American military-industrial complex. But the key objective is rather startling. Joe Biden and his coterie want to let China off the hook. Yet, for the democratic world, China remains the biggest threat. For countries like India, Japan, Israel, ASEAN member states, Australia, and countless others, China remains a foe. Yet, the room for taking on China is increasingly becoming restricted. Biden wants the world to believe that Quad and AUKUS will drive China to the ground. But pray tell, how will Quad achieve its goals when the United States is focused on taking down Russia instead of China? You must be thinking that there is no need for a new Quad when the one comprising of India, the US, Australia, and Japan already exists. So, let's deal with this issue first. Let me briefly tell you why this Quad will not be able to take China on in the long run. What do we know about the United States and Australia? It is that their foreign policy changes with the change in governments. A Republican administration in the United States is likely to go harder on China than a Democratic one. Donald Trump made life miserable for China, while Joe Biden is working to undo all the gains bagged during the Trump presidency. In Australia, Prime Minister Scott Morrison is the reason why Canberra has taken a radical anti-China stance. With elections looming over Australia and the prospect of a loss staring Morrison in the face, will Canberra continue hunting China when a new government takes charge? We don't know. Most probably, though, the answer would be no. This is because, like in the United States, there are many China doves and CCP stooges in Australia as well. Australia, meanwhile, is also significantly far from China and does not have much skin in the game, much like the US. With a change in government in Canberra, Australia may be driven towards adopting a more neutral stance vis-a-vis China. Canberra might just decide upon emphasizing trade ties with Beijing over the security and stability of the Indo-Pacific. Therefore, a new Quad is about to emerge. Perhaps it will have a different name, but here are the constituents of this future Quad: India, Japan, Israel, and Russia. Sound surprising? Well, it is not. Let me explain how each of these countries is left with no option but to fight China. Let's talk about India first. India shares a 3,500 kilometer long border with China and remains the only country that has actually exchanged physical blows with the latter. Indian soldiers have dispatched Chinese little emperors to hell in truckloads. If India is to secure its interests, it must fight China. Building a vibrant relationship, even an economic one, is not an option for New Delhi. India has a definitive China policy. This policy will not witness significant changes with a change in government in the future. No matter who comes to power in New Delhi, China will remain an enemy of India. So, India has a stable China strategy, and it brings the same stability to the Quad. India also has the man, machine, and economic power to take on China. What about Japan? Japan faces an existential threat from China. Tokyo and Beijing are incompatible. Do you know why? Because there is a raging dispute between the two countries over the Senkaku Islands. And then, Japan has vowed to protect Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion against the island nation. So, Japan and China are practically at the cusp of a conflict in the East China Sea. Also, like India, Japan has skin in the game. It is located right next to China. It is an American ally and it is democratic. all of which puts it at odds with Beijing. But isn't Russia a friend of China, you might ask? Russia has to embrace China out of compulsion rather than choice. China is a tremendous trade partner of Moscow, and at a time when the United States makes it a mission to ruin the Russian economy, China will be the one keeping it afloat. Not having China on its side could take a massive toll on Russia's economy. Putin does not want to lose access to the Chinese market, and he will dump China at the first opportunity that favors him. If India, Japan, Israel, and Russia come together under one umbrella, however, Putin will have more than sufficient incentive to abandon China. Finally, let's talk about Israel. Israel is the pivot of the Middle East. It is a beacon of hope in a region ravaged by conflict, war, violence, and extremism. And then, China has been trying to make inroads into the Middle East, a move that is unacceptable to the Jewish nation. China has been stealing Israeli technologies and trying to debt trap the Jewish nation. Tel Aviv has seen right through China's nefarious plans, and it is now keen to take on Beijing. Therefore, India, Russia, Japan, and Israel might just come together in the next 10 years to build a formidable security alliance that will make China tremble in its shoes.